Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the panel. My name is Katie Hearn-Church, and I am the creator and co-host of Queen's Podcast. We are part of the Airwave Network, and today we are going to talk about joining networks for podcasters. So let me introduce my panelists. First up, we have Gordon Firemark, known as the Podcast Lawyer, and host of Entertainment Law Podcast and Legit Podcast Pro. Hi, Gordon.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And then we got Ben Mathis, who is the CEO of my network, Airwave. Nice to meet you. I'm Ben.
Oh yeah, nice to meet you. We've never done business before.
Brand new.
No, we've been working together 3-4 years now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, quite a while. Yeah.
And
Love
then
Queen's Podcast. Check it out.
Oh, thank you. And then we have John Wardock, president of John Wardock Media. He's also a former executive editor and senior VP at Cumulus Podcast Network, and was executive producer at Wall Street Journal. So thank you for coming, John.
Yeah, nice. And I've known Katie for 3 minutes. So
Yeah,
this
we
is
go
great.
way back,
Yes.
way back.
Same here.
So as a podcaster, especially when you're first getting started, there might be a lot of people reaching out from networks. And I know when I started podcasting, the first time a network reached out, I was just like, what is this? And I really wish that I would have known more about that space. So that's kind of what we're going to get into today, kind of pull the curtain back, kind of let y'all ask some questions, then give some advice about networks, what you should be asking, what red flags you should look out for, what green flags you should look out for. And then we're going to open it up for y'all to ask some questions. And yeah, I'm excited. Y'all ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right. So first, Ben, I wanted to ask you, so the definition of a podcast network and like the services they're going to provide, there are just so many variations there, and there's so many different networks offering different kinds of service. I would love to hear, like, what advice would you give to like navigating that space, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, it sounds like you have some regrets about joining the network. You're like, suddenly you're a sheep.
Okay, do you think you were the first network that approached us,
Oh,
Ben?
okay. Probably not, I'm sure. Okay. Good. I was starting to wonder. I was like, oh, if only I had known back then.
We love Airwave.
Okay. Well, I do too. Thank you. Yeah, you're right. I mean, network can mean a lot of different things. It can be anything from, look, there are a lot of networks that are essentially just ad sellers, and maybe networks in name only. And really they're, which you can't blame them. They're focused on what makes them money. There are networks that are essentially collectives, and they're less monetization focused and maybe promotion focused, and, doing promo and growth and collaboration and that type of thing. And then there are networks that bring in monetization and growth and other aspects. I think for us, we try to, in the hierarchy, there's monetization for us. So mostly you're talking about ad sales, but subscriptions, paid subscriptions, merchandising, other aspect to it. We have a book publisher. Things like that. And then the growth and promotion aspect is really, I could think 50-50, with monetization in terms of what our job is as a network. We focus very heavily on that. There are probably networks that are more monetization focused and don't see the value necessarily in promotion and growth. For us, we're playing the long game. If we're promoting and growing your show, then we're going to be planning on being around to reap the benefits of that financially. And then, it could be free hosting, things like that. As you know, we also have, monthly seminars and various other benefits. Community, a Discord server for our podcasters and things like that. And that's something I think we really have started to realize the value of, because so many podcasters tell me I'm sick of being treated like a number or a commodity, and they want to feel like there's someone kind of in the foxhole with them, a real partner. So that's something more recently we really tried to build out. But Yeah, I mean, it can be anywhere from just a straight ad, basically ad sales. It's an ad seller to much, much more.
So before a podcaster maybe goes to a meeting with a network, they should really consider these things, what
Yeah.
they expect with everything you just listed, not just going in blind. They should really consider all that first.
Yeah, and just ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Aside from ad sales, what else, are you going
Yeah.
to be able to provide for us?
And I will say, I do love an airwave, not to become like a promotional tool, but the Discord is really cool because it's such a great hub for history podcasters like our show is, which can be quite niche. So I appreciate the community aspect as well. So Gordon, the next one is for you. A lot of podcasters don't know what's standard in a network relationship. So what are the things you usually tell them, would advise them to negotiate with a network when they get into talks?
Well, standard is a word we lawyers don't like much anyway. There are the customary terms, right? And obviously, when you're dealing with an ad sales oriented network, or really anybody who's dealing with money, the big question is how much? How much am I going to get? What's the split?
Yeah.
So,
Did your mic just?
mic cut out. I said, so what's the split? And there is sort of it's no longer an emerging standard. It is pretty much a standard of 70-30 split in favor of the podcaster, but that varies a lot depending on what the network is bringing to the table. Because if they're bringing the production services, if they're bringing studio facilities, if they're bringing lots of marketing promotion, maybe they deserve a bigger slice of the revenue pie and stuff like that. So that's the one that I would say is closest to a standard. The stuff that we see that's sort of non-standard, substandard, is when the network wants to own the IP outright. That's probably not a great idea unless the podcaster is being basically paid to show up and record sessions, and that's a work-for-hire scenario.
Right.
One of the other big questions that we deal with a lot in network deals is what happens at the end of the relationship? Do I get my RSS feedback? Who owns the audience, essentially? And that's very negotiable. There isn't a standard on that. A lot of networks like to just hold on to that and say, no, if you leave, go with God, but you're on your own.
Right.
And that can be troublesome. So these are the kinds of questions that creators need to ask as they join networks.
Yeah.
And I would add to that, at Cumulus, we were a full-service network, so we provided production support. We had studios in places like New York and L.A. We also had 400 radio stations. Think of all those studio opportunities.
Yeah.
And that enabled us to knock down the rev share. That 70-30
Yeah.
instantly becomes 50-50 or 55-45. So if you're going to need production support, you should know that going into your network
Your split's going to
negotiations.
be different.
And some networks do it differently, where they stick to 70-30, but it's after all of those production costs are deducted off the top. And then, of course, they have no incentive to pay people low rates for their services, and the studio rental becomes $600 an hour and things like that. So. Right.
Well, John, my next question was for you, and it's kind of in that same arena. If you're consulting with a podcaster, what advice are you giving your clients when they're talking about networks?
My feeling is birds of a feather should flock together. Do your homework about the network. Are there shows on that network you're comfortable with? The one thing about Cumulus, we had 4 pillars. We had news, business, money, tech, sports, and lifestyle. So if we had someone from sports approach, hey, we'd love to join the network. I just won the Super Bowl. It's like, great. How often are you going to show up and do your podcast? Oh, like every other month. Well, maybe. So know what you're getting into, and then a good network can then position you in that pillar when going to sell the show. And that way you are grouped with other like-minded shows. And I think longer term it really benefits for promotion and for ad revenue.
Absolutely.
So do your homework on that network.
Yeah.
See what other shows are maybe in your niche.
Yeah, and call some of the shows. The other thing I would
bad
say
idea.
is, go to the Wayback Machine and look at websites for past, in the past 5 years ago, what shows are on this network, and then look today, and has there been a big changeover?
Oh.
And
That's a smart idea. Like, see
Yeah.
if there's been like a churn
Yeah.
rate. kind
where
of.
did those 5 shows go? You know,
Yeah.
it's like, and then you reach out to them and say, oh,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
Right.
And
Yeah.
also,
Right.
audience demographics and engagement can be really significant. You could have 1 million listeners to your network, but if you've got 50,000 different subjects
Yeah.
on your network, you got 12 listeners per show. And so you want to know
Right.
if you're going to join a network, this is the right network for me, for my show. It's going to do well.
And that they know how to promote your kind of content.
yeah.
Yeah, or if the network is trying to move into a new area, you need to know that too and just sort of be okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One last thing on joining a network and negotiating. I used to sit on the content acquisition team, and I always had my questions, but your better shows always had theirs. And you should
Yeah.
always, and you probably see this, Gordon, with your clients, you know, you should have a wish list. Will I get promotion? Will I get production support? How much promotion will you give me each month? You know, at conferences, will I get invited? Will you pay for my travel? All that should be in contracts, you know?
Often the creators don't ask those questions. They think they
Yeah.
make assumptions probably
Yep.
and are often disappointed. And sometimes when we're representing networks, we see the same thing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of just like any kind of job interview or something. Do your homework, come with questions. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like what you said about going back to their website and seeing which shows are still with them. And don't be
shows?
afraid to ask them what the retention rate is.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll be straight with you. And yeah, for sure. And I always say, reach out to, don't be afraid to reach out to their podcast. I encourage people to reach out to our podcast. I hope they don't bug you too much. That's one thing I'm always mindful for.
Well, when I first
mindful of,
got started in the podcast space, I was reaching out to everyone in our niche, and I just tell people like, shoot your shot. The worst that they can do
Yeah.
is not DM you back. Like,
Yeah.
go for it. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I think that's really good advice, and can also help you build community with your niche. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
never know when the synergy develops and you will suddenly have a
Exactly.
partner in something.
Exactly. Cool. So, Ben, here's another one for you about content fit. We've touched on this a little bit, but I've heard you say that there are 3 main things that podcasters need to like be thinking about when they're considering a network: monetization, growth and promotion, and the third element that I feel like kind of gets overlooked a lot, but is so important, is like that content fit. I would love to
Yeah.
hear you dive into that a little bit
Yeah,
more.
to John's point, it is something that most people overlook. Again, in that hierarchy, most people think monetization, maybe they're considering growth and promotion and some other things. I find all the time that podcasters, focus on that and don't really take into account the content fit. The content fit matters because if they don't have a lot of like-minded content or similar content to your show, they probably don't have a deep bench of advertisers that are interested in that space. If you're on a network, if you're a sports show and you're on a network that is mostly parenting and family podcasts, they're probably not going to have a deep bench of advertisers that are buying your specific audience and your type of content. Also, similar to what John was just saying, on the promotion side, it doesn't matter how much they promise they're going to promote you and grow your show, even if they give you a guarantee of X number of promo impressions per month. If the content isn't aligned with your show, it really doesn't matter. Essentially, it's next to worthless.
Yeah, no. It's
Unless there's demographic alignments, which sometimes there are.
Yeah.
But content fit, and also just consider the company you keep. How does it look to other people? If there may be certain shows that are controversial that you don't want to be associated with. How is that going to look to your listeners? Are you going to get blowback for that? That's something to think about as well.
Yeah, at Cumulus, at one point, we had Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, Mark Levin, Matt Walsh. We had the Daily Wire, and that was an instant no thank you for some places, right? It's like, we can't go there. But the way we got around that as a network was saying, we're for everybody. Big, bold voices for everyone.
Yeah.
But you should know, if you're joining a network that has Ben Shapiro, there might be some controversy there at some point. You got to get ready for that. Yeah.
No, we've definitely had networks approach us that I just wanted to be like, I have gone and looked at their shows before Airwave, obviously, and just been like, why are they even reaching out to us? And I thought that was a red flag, actually, which actually brings me to the next question. What other red flags do you think that podcasters should look out for when searching for networks or being approached by networks, or what just is it like a gut feeling, or are there more tangible things you can do, like think about for red flags?
Well, I mentioned the ownership of the intellectual property being an issue. Sort of network tight control kind of position. I mean, some shows maybe need that kind of help and intervent. You know, parenting.
Yeah.
They need to be parented, I should say. One that isn't very is not going to be popular with the network folks, but
Controversial.
the payment terms. What most networks that are in the business of selling ads do is they pay when they get paid. And if that's the case, first of all, go talk to some of their other shows and find out how does that work out for them, because I've seen it unfortunately too many times where the network doesn't get paid and then also doesn't go chasing after the money. So the podcaster who has now inserted that ad 6 months ago still hasn't been paid for it. Neither has the network, but the network's got a lot of other ads. The show may only have one, or, so that we get paid when you get paid when we get paid can be a problem, and we as a lawyer representing talent, we try to negotiate that. On the network side, obviously we don't want to be at risk. So
Yeah, and I would ask for a document. Show me what my monthly revenue projection is going to look like.
That's a good one, yeah.
And a big red flag is if they're faxing you this document.
Send a carrier pigeon.
Okay.
Handwritten proposal.
Or they're putting it in the mail. Maybe you should go for a more modern network.
Right. I love that. I would say the two big red flags, if I can think of it. Okay, just like you were alluding to earlier, there are a lot of networks or emerging networks that are just some guy behind a computer cold emailing every podcast they find, hoping that someone responds. So if someone reaches out to you and they don't really know your show, and you can get a sense for that. If they haven't listened to at least one episode of your show, they're probably not worth, unless they are someone that you already know of. If it's iHeart, then okay, maybe. But if they haven't listened to your show, then they don't understand your needs, and it's probably going to be an uphill battle when you join. Also, like I said a minute ago, if they don't want you to reach out to their podcasters and ask about the network, then that's a definite red flag.
I had once someone send us an email for like some kind of promotion or something, and we had done an episode because we're Women in History. We did one on Selena Quintanilla, and they obviously copy pasted the title of the episode, but they didn't copy the S. And they were like, "We would like to talk to you about your Elena Quintanilla episode." And it was like, oh, so that is a huge red flag, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or there will be some who put the episode title in the subject line of the email, so they want to make it sound like they're actually familiar with it or listened, and then if you ask them what did you like about it?
What episodes, plural,
Yeah.
have you liked, right?
Yeah.
One other thing on the financial side of things, we used to do models, and so we knew what we were getting into when we would go after a show. We had a conservative estimate for quarterly revenue or monthly revenue, then moderate, and then aggressive. If you're reaching out to a big network, they're probably doing that kind of modeling. Ask them for what their projections are.
Yeah.
So I'd say the red flag is lack of transparency.
Yes.
Even
Absolutely.
in the early days.
And if
That's
they
a
don't
great way to-
provide that, then what are they hiding there, right? So they, if they want you, they're going to do everything to show that they want you.
Yeah.
So green flags are transparency, and green flags are they at least understand your content and not just doing a cold pitch. Okay, I like that.
And track record, too. I mean, everybody deserves a chance to get started, but at some point you want to be dealing with people who know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ask what advertisers they're dealing with. What content is selling well. Just ask everything that comes to mind.
Yeah. I like that. All right, well, I do have some other questions, but I wanted to make sure we open it up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions about joining networks? Yeah.
Hey, thank you guys. I'm curious. I own a podcast production company. We have lots of, we edit between 200 and 400 episodes a month. So we have some podcasters that definitely live in your all's network land that are undiscovered yet. So one, how are you going about discovering these that you're approaching? And 2, what is that entry point for you all before someone like me sent them to you? How many downloads per episode is the right range?
Yeah, I would say we recently launched kind of a tiered system. Previously, we were only taking shows that were 100K or over a month in terms of monthly downloads. Now we have a system, particularly for growing in new shows, where if you're somewhere between 25K and 100K a month, then that we give you free hosting. More focused on programmatic advertising, and growth will give you guaranteed promo and things to get you to the 100K point, where you're going to start to see a lot more on the host-read ad side and other benefits and services that are more like a full network relationship. So, in terms, I forget. I think that there was another question in there, and I forget. But that's kind of where we start. Oh, how do we find them? Honestly, a lot of our podcasters, probably the majority, come from our existing podcasters. We get recommendations from Katie and others. We get a lot of referrals. There are all these different little chat rooms and Reddit threads that different categories communicate. Podcasters in different categories communicate in. We do some outreach. I mean, we certainly keep our eye on the charts and stuff and see what's trending. And also, we're still always looking for things that maybe they're not a giant show, but they might be a good content fit and have growth potential.
Yeah, we also worked a lot with agencies like UTA, WME, CAA, and we knew who was coming up for your more established shows, and then we would set up a plan to try to lure those shows to our network.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Really good question. Anybody else?
We're just that good.
So good. We've covered,
covered it all.
everything. I have a question for you that I'm wondering, because we talked a lot about coming to the table, being like how you prepare yourself to talk to a network. How do you advocate for what if you've already signed up and you're like, oh, this is a whole new world? How do you advocate for yourself afterwards, and what's a good way to build a healthy relationship with that network that's going to continue to be mutually beneficial? Any advice?
Keep an open inbox. The rule was if anyone wanted to reach out to me, I was the editorial lead for the network. If they wanted to talk about Apple or whatever, YouTube, can you help me with Spotify video? I would talk to everyone, whether it was Sean Ryan or a new show that was just starting out. Everyone was free to come to me and ask questions. And I think a good network, getting back to the transparency issue, will keep that door open so you can go ask questions.
Don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
Exactly. And I would also ask for a monthly check-in meeting because it's a good way to gauge the temperature of
their level
content
of
creator. Yes.
Yeah.
And if they're like, and then the meetings get really short, like 5 minutes long, they might be looking for another network, or who knows what they're doing. So it's something, from the network side, we always tried to have meetings and on the books. So ask for it. If you're a creator, ask for it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'd say if nothing else, when there's been a management transition, an ownership transition, something like that, ask for the meeting and go and sit down and find out, are you still on the same page? Are you pointed in the same direction? And if not, then it may be a good time to talk about a change. And
That's really good advice. Yeah.
I mean, we tend to be pretty hands-off on the content side. Our shows have total creative freedom, approval over ads, we're never going to try to own your IP or your feed or anything like that. But we have a lot of podcasters who reach out and just want to get on a call and just bounce ideas off of us. Very happy to do that. If, what we're seeing at a high level in terms of audience trends, advertising trends can better inform your strategic decisions, always happy to do that. To John's point, if they're not if the person that initially reached out to you is not available to check in with you once you sign, then that's going to be a problem. Yeah.
So I'm hearing keep communication open, ask for what you want. And I think also it's important to remember that maybe you haven't heard from a network for a minute. They're also not mind readers.
Right.
So you have to let them know if something is on your mind too.
Definitely.
And that's a part of the advocacy for yourself, right?
Yeah, and keep it productive.
Yeah.
But, don't be afraid to be a squeaky wheel. Any network that's worth their salt is perfectly fine with that and understands, you're going to be checking in if you haven't seen very much in terms of ad sales over the past few months.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can also drive people away if you kind of drive them crazy or rude or angry about it. So I would say just be productive. We're all in the same boat. Everyone wants to make money. So we're all kind of aligned in terms of the purpose here. So, but yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. And with me, like I never want the network to grow so big that I can't personally respond to a podcaster's email.
Yeah.
As the head of the network. So, yeah.
Awesome. I think we had a question.
Hey guys, my question is, what do you recommend to someone who's starting a new podcast? Do you recommend to join to a network?
Like if you're creating a new one, or
I would say if you're starting a new podcast, unless you have a gigantic following on social media or something else, or you're a celebrity, you probably want to build your audience first and then go out there and trying to find a network home. But if you are a TikTok celebrity and you're going to start a podcast, you can probably find a network that would be interested in partnering with you and can provide some growth and promotion to help you with that launch. It kind of all depends on what your situation is.
yeah.
But generally, the rule would be probably to try and see what you can build on your own. And then once you get to about 25K or 50K, then reach out to a network. You'll have a lot more leverage then.
Yeah, in terms of monetization, there are services like Red Circle that cater to independent content
True.
creators to get going.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to start there to see what money you can make. And then once you start getting larger, then look around for a network.
Yeah.
And also, when you're small, when you're just starting out, it's a misconception that you can't get advertisers until you're at 10,000 downloads per. You can, but what you have to do is leverage personal connections with companies and
Little more
advertisers.
Yeah.
And really just sort of be in the business of serving them directly one-to-one. That's how you act as your own network in that way in those early days.
True. But I mean, if you have 1,000 listens a month, you can still do programmatic advertising. Yeah, at any level, really.
I think that's good advice. And also with, if you don't already have that following and you're just starting a new podcast, you might want to take that first year just to kind of get your sea legs, kind of figure out your style, your cadence before you bring in a third party.
Good advice.
So
Honestly, if you don't know where your audience is, no network is going to be able to find them for you.
Yeah.
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 Cool. Well, we've just got a few minutes left. Are there any other questions? Anybody? Well, should I ask one more? Or should we wrap it
Yeah,
up?
let's go for it.
Okay, cool. So the last one is about minimum guarantees. I feel like that is when, as a podcaster, you feel like you've made it, minimum guarantees, but can that come with strings attached that you didn't think about? Could that also maybe be a little scary?
Oh.
Gordon?
The answer is heck yes, they can.
Yes.
The biggest one is that, a minimum guarantee is another word for that is an advance. And that means that at some point you're paying it back.
Right.
If you've got a rev shared deal and you've got a minimum guarantee, that's nice because you've got money coming in. And that sometimes actually helps deal with that when you get paid question I brought up earlier.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to pay it back. And I have seen network deals that say, it's a 2-year term or 3-year term, and you're getting this minimum guarantee. And at the end of the term, if you haven't fully recouped that advance, then it doesn't end. You have to keep going until, and that becomes a vicious circle of just more advances and more
Yeah.
negative balance in that.
Indentured
account.
servitude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that can be a real downside.
One thing we did was, okay, you want an MG. Well, guess what? Here are the terms and conditions. If you don't hit these downloads or YouTube views, guess what?
Yeah.
Null and void.
Right. And there probably in many cases will be pressure for you to compromise certain standards in terms of what advertisers and ad categories you would approve. You might have less flexibility there depending on where you are with the network.
Yeah. So watch what you get with MGs.
Awesome.
Read the fine print. Yes.
and maybe get some help reading the fine print.
I think
Right
we
here.
got some really good advice today. I found this really interesting, really beneficial. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone
Thank
for
you,
coming
everybody.
out. Yes.